Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to my channel. I am, in fact, still alive. One seasonal depression later and one anime that I deeply love later, we are here to talk about Dandadan. Dandadan is a series that I have been following for a long while now. I love this manga, and so I was extremely excited when the anime came out. With Tatsu-sensei, you get a lot of quality in the artwork, more so than a lot of other Shonen Jump or Jump Plus authors. We see these beautiful illustrations in the background. We see him levy the power of horror in such a strong way that only I feel like pen and ink can really get, all while still being a lighthearted, relatively silly show. And that's what I love so much about Dandadan, is its ability to both be incredibly scary and incredibly hilarious. So without further ado, how about we take a look at Tatsu-sensei's Dandadan and its art style. We see here that there's a lot of sort of messiness along things like here the ear we see, here in the chin there's some messiness here. It's not necessarily a one solid line. That's typical of a lot of manga authors. You like to keep things loose and almost like you want them to breathe. It definitely helps with the aesthetic. We see a lot of use of hatching. We see hatching right here up at the top, here on the side. We see hatching a lot around the nose. That's a very distinct Tatsu style right here, to use that hatching above the nose. We see it on even the female characters here, which is not very typical of manga. And I wanted to talk first about the line quality because I feel like that's something that a lot of people tend to miss, is specific ways that the mangaka hold the pen does genuinely cause a lot of this style to come through. Generally speaking, you see these kinds of lines, these kinds of sort of broken up lines in traditional pen art, since it's just naturally how ink flows. It's pretty difficult to get that same aesthetic whenever you have a stabilized line in a drawing program like this, but you can mimic it by doing one stroke and then kind of separating, lifting your pen when you go to do the other stroke. And as much as that may seem counterintuitive, you might think like, oh, I want all of my lines here to be perfectly smooth. I want my line art to be wonderfully connected, perfectly polished and cleaned up. But in reality, doing that actually robs you of some of the life of the image. Realistically, what you want is to have some of these thicker lines, these broken up lines here, like right here, right here. Let's look at the ear, for instance. We see right here, it's a little bit broken up. Right here at the neck especially, it's very, very broken up. I feel like a lot of people, again, miss out on a lot of character and flavor with their art by cleaning up their line art a little bit too much. I just wanted to convey that this is something important when you're looking at an art style and sort of how to break it down. So I'm just going to make this a ghost layer here so we can take a look at some of the decisions that Tatsu-sensei makes with Okarun. Specifically with the face shape, we see a very beveled sort of face right here coming down to where the glasses are. When Tatsu-sensei goes to draw in the glasses, he intentionally leaves a lot of it blank, and that's mostly to convey the sort of light refraction. It's a very, very, very simple idea, but it's one that has a lot of impact on the overall illustration. And I'm talking about specifically this little section right here, that break in the line, does so much to show that the light is being augmented by the glasses. Now, in talking about the eyes, right? Okarun is a sort of round, bubbly character, so it would make sense that his eyes would also be kind of a generally round shape, right? You see this a lot in anime. It's essentially visual shorthand for a character being either innocent, naive, maybe not confident with themselves, but the way that Tatsu actually draws this does not necessarily make it feel like he's moe or anything like that, like what you see with a lot of other characters with round eyes. And I think that that's mostly due to how Tatsu-sensei draws the pupil. When we're looking at the pupil, usually artists, especially mangaka, choose to do kind of a darker outline, and they'll have a section of the eye cut up in order to show the highlight, the shine of the eye. The shine of the eye is very dramatized in anime, and that's mostly because anime is supposed to be caricature of the real world and real life, but in such a way where it's more pleasant to look at, and that visible eye shine just helps to convey that. So we're going to go in here. He then uses hatching in order to fill in the eyes. You'll notice that about right here and right here, so kind of this section right here, is pretty much entirely filled in black. And that's a way that a lot of artists tend to draw eyes. Your eye is naturally a gradient. So when you go to draw the eye, like let's say here, this is Okurun's pupil right here, right? We're going to draw in the actual pupil like this. And then we want to take a section of it, like kind of like a little, I guess, V shape right here. And we fill in that with black. Now, what that accomplishes, it might look kind of weird before we add the hatching because it feels almost as if this whole entire section right here is his pupil. But realistically, it's actually just the shading of the eye. Because the eye is a 3D object, we need to have it get darker towards the top and then a little bit lighter as we go downward. Hence why we have the shine of the eye, which Tatsu tends to do using kind of rough hatching here. In this case, 2 lines, and then we'll just either erase or never draw in the first place the part of the iris right here and right here in order to convey the shine. And then we go in with the hatching. So we start in the same direction as this V shape right here, and we'll mimic that on the other side here like this. And then we come in and do horizontal hatching the rest of the way down, which helps complete that illusion that the eye is in fact colored in. And we do want to bring that cross hatching up past the little V shape. And that is how we get sort of an iris that Tatsu-sensei would draw. I'm just going to add a few more hatching here, a little bit more, just to really fill in that look. And we can see how similar these two are here, just using very, very basic techniques. There really isn't anything extremely complicated here. Another very, very distinct thing that Tatsu-sensei does is his eyebrows. His eyebrows are very, very distinct. What we're looking at here is 2 lines, one right here and one right here, right? And now these 2 lines are then hatched through going the opposite direction. So 2 horizontal lines, and then you hatch downward like this to fill in the rest of the brows. And you notice the hatching goes a little bit out of the eyebrow range right here and right here. And that just kind of helps to create that natural tapering effect that eyebrows have. We can see that Momo has the exact same type of eyebrow. And then again, you just kind of hatch downward. You want to hatch in the curve of the face. So we're going to move slightly backwards and start to tilt these lines as we're going backwards. And that's how you create a Tatsu style eyebrow. And this goes for pretty much all of the characters. There are a few exceptions, but especially for the main characters, this is generally what we'll see. Now, another lovely thing that Tatsu does that I really enjoy is he actually draws the bridge of the nose. So in this case, it usually starts, the bridge of the nose will always start around about where the bottom of the eyes are, in this case because he's tilting and because of the little glasses connector thing. We'll have to see it start a little bit higher up. He comes down from here, does kind of like a rough line, and then almost, he kind of pulls one of these little shapes right here. And I love this shape when I'm drawing noses right here. I know it seems kind of dumb, but I feel like this right here, the fact that there's 2 lines that almost branch out from each other is so great, because when you're thinking about a nose, right? When you're looking at a nose in 3-dimensional space, though, there is the tip of the nose right here, right? And this tip of the nose does cast shadow. So if the light, for instance, and this is going to be confusing because I already shaded it, is going this way, then you're going to need more shade coming this way. When you're going in to do a nose from a 3-point perspective like this, when you're drawing kind of like that, a nose that looks sort of like that, I'm going to overfill in the details here just to kind of show you what I'm doing here. This little line right here has so much power, because look, what this is doing is it's shading the back side of the nose right here without us actually having to do any hatching for it. Here, he uses line weight instead. For Momo, you can see he comes down with a thin line here at the top, and then as it hits the peak of the nose, the line gets significantly bolder, and then it comes back out to a tip right here. Now, what this does is it implies that the nose, this point right here, is in front of the cheek, this line right here. Then all you gotta do is just do a dash for the nostril, and then Tatsu loves to hatch the top of the nose. Almost every character he draws, he loves to hatch the top of the nose, just like that. As far as the ears go, we do see quite a bit of definition in those as well. The ears are very, very anatomically correct, but are rough enough that there is some distinction there, right? We're seeing this kind of definition, and we're seeing this hatching done here, just to fill in some space, right? As far as the hair goes, a lot of the characters, especially black-haired characters, have the very typical manga, just blackout style, right? Where all you're doing is you're just sort of drawing the outline of the hair, and if you're doing it traditionally, you would either tell your assistants to fill it in by marking it with an X, like that. So you would mark X right here. You might go like this for the eye, and then mark X right here to tell them to fill it in. Or if you're drawing digitally, you just use the bucket tool or the lasso tool or whatever tool you use to fill in space, right? But what I think is really, really cool here, and why Okarun is such a cool character, is we have a very distinct hairstyle insofar as we have this sort of fade effect right here. And this is done through cross-hatching, right? Very similarly to how we have the eyebrows, where we do two lines and then hatch in vertically. We have two vertical lines sort of defining the outline of the hair. So what do? We come in and we start hatching a little bit lighter, and then as we get up to the top of the hair, we start to see a lot more cross hatching come in. So it comes in like that, and then we see suddenly there's a few other directions coming into play, and a few other directions coming into play, and we apply more ink and more ink and more ink, and then gradually what we get is that sort of tapering look where the hair goes from light to dark as there's more volume. The more volume something has, the more ink there would be to define it. Again, just like the nose example we did earlier with Momo, the more ink there is, generally speaking, the more volume. Or in this case, the fact that it's in front of her cheek. Alright, so let's actually draw Okarun here. So starting, of course, with just a simple circle, right? Okarun is a younger man, so we're going to actually keep his face relatively small. The neck would come down kind of right here, and I'm looking at kind of where the eyes would be, right around here. And I'm probably going to draw him in his uniform, so we're not going to see too much of the neck here. I'm just going to do a quick bust of him as well. I don't really want to go too deep into all of these super specifics. So we're going to see kind of this gradual curve coming in here. We're going to come in with the ears like this. Let's go ahead and place in the eyes, right? And then we'll throw in the pupil, which takes up most of the eye. I would say the pupil, generally speaking, takes up about 2/3 of the space of the eye with these types of characters, these slightly more innocent characters, right? We'll do what we did before, make the V shape here for the pupil. Take the cut for the highlight of the eye, like that. So down here where the nose is, we're going to put in just like that. For front-facing okarun, it's usually just 2 dashes, and then we kind of have a little section here where there's hatching, where the bridge of the nose is just like that. Usually it's a little bit more condensed though. Let's try that. Then we're going to draw in the mouth. Tatsu likes to do really big, wide mouths, so we're going to see kind of something like that. Maybe a little bit tinier. Then we're going to come in and do the glasses. And then let's do the eyebrows. I always like to start with thicker line art at the top here for the neck. It just helps convey that shadow. And then usually the way that Tatsu does neck shadow is he does 2 lines to define where the shadow ends, and then we'll just cross hatch in vertically the rest of the neck. I'm going to add a little bit of that dirt hatching that I had mentioned earlier, just to kind of convey maybe he's been through something. Maybe this is after a little adventure that they've gone on, who knows specifically what. And now coming in around above the eyebrows, so right around his temples is where the beginning of the fade is on his hair. And then we'll just do 2 lines here to kind of convey that. And then it comes out to right about here is where the actual hair starts. So we'll do that real quick. And now as for the actual hair, we're just going to do a couple of like the standard triangle sort of manga hair aesthetic looks here. The top of his hair is very wild and kind of raggedy after he gets the turbo granny abilities, so we'll just kind of have that conveyed. Well, we will label this as R. That's usually my rough layer. We'll turn off the skeleton layer here, and let's get into the fun part. Let's get into inking now. This is where we get to really take some of those techniques and put them to use. I'm going to do a tiny bit of stabilization here. All right, I always like to start with the chin. I'm going to go a little bit darker as we get to this point right here, since it's going to be slightly protruding, whereas right here, I'm going to go a little bit lighter, then darker again as we get to the point of the chin. That just helps convey that the point of the chin is indeed slightly ahead. I'm being intentionally a little bit rough with my line art. I want to get some variable weight here. And I'm even going to leave like this little chunk right here separate. I'm not going to fill that in. That's just going to help in the long run with the aesthetic overall. We're going to go in and do the neck now, making the top of that neckline a little bit thicker here to help convey that it is indeed in shadow. And we're going to go kind of to a tapered point right here, and then we'll start the other side. So we're going to do slightly thicker lines here for the ear, coming in like that. You're seeing just how rough I'm being, but like in reality, this is sort of how he does it. We're going to see the bridge of the ear come out. He kind of does like a little, he kind of goes kind of like this, and then up, and then back down again. We see sort of the dark part of the ear right here, just like that. And then we'll do the same on the other side here. Just like that. There we go. We'll do 2 lines right here in the center for the nostrils. Very simple. And we'll go in and do some hatching here just to show the bridge of the nose. Whenever we do the mouth, I always like to do the ends of the mouth a little bit darker. It helps kind of convey where the mouth comes back in, right here and right here. I feel like making those sections darker really implies the fact that the lips are actually going back into the face. We'll do the rest of the hatching here, just like this. Now the eyes, this will be the fun part. So we're going to taper at the beginning here and go a lot thicker and then taper back out. Kind of like this. I like to draw in sort of two different lines so I can get the weight down, and then I'll go in and actually fill. And when I go to fill, I intentionally do not fill everything in. That just adds to sort of, I guess, the fluffiness of the eyes. I mean, what we're drawing here is the eyelashes, right? And so you want it to be a little almost fluffy. We're going to go ahead and do the actual glasses here very carefully. I want to do these all in kind of one line here. For the eyebrows, doing two horizontal lines kind of at the same length, and then coming in with vertical hatching to fill in those lines in order to imply kind of the fluffiness of the eyebrows. We're going to draw in the sideburns. Okay, just like that. Let's go ahead and do the hair triangles. And now let's go ahead and do the collar here, like this. Okay, now let's go ahead and fill in all of the dark spots here. And then I'm going to go into the uniform here, black it out a little bit, and then kind of come back in with some of the places I want it to be a little bit lighter, like right here. And I'm just going to kind of hatch it out a little bit, just to add some of the natural light reflection there. And there we go. We have Okorun. Look at that. Not too hard. So there we have it. That is Dandadan, the basics of it. I really hope that you enjoyed watching. If you're interested in checking out anything that I've made, there will be a link to my current manga. It's currently completely free to read online with no ads. Thank you all so much for watching. Hopefully I'll be back around before 500 days. Once again, I've been Dove. Thank you so much. Have a good one.